If you haven't heard, the NBA is dealing with a major scandal. Not that one. Not that one either. That one. There's a new federal indictment alleging that between December 2022 and March 2024, there was a group of defendants that took part in an illegal professional basketball gambling scheme. In this video, we're going to go over the indictment, the evidence that was described, and the implications on the league. The most egregious claims are made against former and current players in the league, since they're actually in the game and they can alter the outcome of the game and the outcome of their stats to make these bets pay out. 3 separate games were provided as evidence for these claims. The first example was a Charlotte Hornets game on March 23, 2023, when Terry Rozier was an active player for the Hornets. Now, Terry Rozier is accused of telling his longtime friend De Niro that he actually planned to leave the game early due to a purported injury. Now, this is basically making the claim that he planned on getting an injury that he didn't currently have. The government claims that Terry gave this information to De Niro so that he could make bets on the outcome of his stats. De Niro then allegedly sold this information to Fairley and another person who's not named. And the indictment also claims that the 3 of them communicated via text about the details regarding Terry Rozier leaving the game and the bets they would make on that. I mean, I can't even imagine what would make a person use text messages to communicate regarding a scheme like this. Just use FaceTime, use a phone call even, use Skype, or use the owl from Harry Potter to deliver a handwritten letter. Anything. The indictment then claims that De Niro and others wagered over $200,000 on Terry's unders for this game. So basically you're just betting that he's going to get under a certain amount of points. Now, Terry Rozier ended up leaving the game after only 9 minutes, and he ended up having 5 points and 2 assists, which is way lower than his average of 21 points and 5 assists. Since he performed way below his averages, the under bets paid off. This would mean that if these individuals actually made these bets, then they would have earned thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars in profit. The indictment then claims that De Niro went around and collected part of the winnings from all these co-conspirators, then gathered all that together and went down to meet Terry Rozier on April 1st, 2023. There, the documents allege that they counted all the profits together. So it's kind of fitting that they met on April 1st, because this seems like the dumbest April Fool's joke of all time. I don't know how the government has evidence for this, but if they have evidence that they met to then count the profits from this scheme, this case seems pretty much open and shut. The indictment documents also claim that they have evidence that Rozier paid for the travel expenses of De Niro during these collections, you could call them. Now we can move on to the other games. On January 26, 2024 and March 20th, 2024, both Toronto Raptors games. During these games, Jontay Porter, brother of Michael Porter Jr., was on the Toronto Raptors, and he gave information to Long Pham, letting him know that he would leave these games early. Long Pham then placed bets using that information, and these are no longer allegations since both of them pled guilty to these charges earlier before this indictment was announced. As a result, Jontay Porter was permanently banned from the league, but he hasn't served any prison time. Now we'll go over the other allegations made and the insiders that also participated in these schemes, but these schemes that involve the players are just truly fascinating to me, because their salaries are just out of this world, and to consider that they would trade all of that away, risk it all for a few $1,000s profit is insane. Even Jontay Porter, who's not well known and he was just on a veteran's contract, he should be beyond financially stable. And that's not even mentioning Michael Porter Jr. is on a 5-year, $179 million contract, so I think their family's fine without the second NBA income. Now, Jontay Porter's situation is dumb and there's no denying that, but if the allegations made about Terry Rozier are true, then he made by far the worst decisions in this entire document. During the season that Terry supposedly took part in this scheme, he was on the first year of his major contract worth over $96 million. Almost $100 million contract, and he was earning $21 million that year. So it's just insane to think he would risk all of that to make a few $1,000s with some buddies. His career NBA earnings will total over $160 million. Now that's in jeopardy because of this whole situation. So if these allegations are confirmed, I mean, I can't think of a dumber move that someone in his position could make. Now we can move on from the NBA players and look at the NBA insiders who are also charged in this document. Now these NBA insiders and people with connections to the staff on the inside, they're not making tens of millions of dollars. So the temptation to take part in a scheme like this is probably a lot greater. The first game was on March 24th, 2023, when the Portland Trail Blazers took on the Chicago Bulls. Ernest received insider info allegedly from someone who was an NBA coach at the time that several Portland Trail Blazers wouldn't be playing in this game against the Bulls. So then he could make bets on the outcome of that game using that insider information that wasn't public yet. Now, the fact that these allegations are claiming the info came from an NBA coach is a big, massive problem for the NBA. If people as high up as a head coach are feeding this information to people on the outside, then this is a much larger issue, and this indictment is just the beginning. Ernest and his associates then allegedly placed over $100,000 on wagers for this game using that information and received major winnings, obviously. The second game was on April 6, 2023, when the Orlando Magic took on the Cleveland Cavaliers. In this situation, it was Fairley, another defendant who supposedly received insider information that several Orlando Magic players would be sitting out of this game. And using that information, he was able to allegedly place these bets on the outcome of that game and receive massive winnings. Farley then used that information to place an $11,000 bet on the point spread for that game. So he's basically betting that the Cleveland Cavaliers would win by a larger number of points than they would originally. They ended up winning by 24 points, so his bets paid off in a major way. The last example included two games, one on February 9th, 2023, and one on January 15th, 2024, which were actually Los Angeles Lakers games. Now, this defendant, Jones, was actually a former NBA player and coach. The documents allege that Jones had insider information due to his obvious connections with the league, and he was able to use that information to place bets and give that information to other people who then would place bets on the outcome of these games. The government claims that Jones had access to undisclosed medical information about these players. So star players like LeBron James or any other stars that were on the Lakers, he had access to the medical information. So if LeBron's not playing a certain game, he would have access to that and be able to feed that information to his co-conspirators or place bets himself, allegedly. The indictment claims that he also used text messages to communicate this information to others, which is just insane. I just don't understand why you would use something with an obvious paper trail to do something that's clearly illegal. Like, you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing and you're keeping a record of it instead of just meeting in person. I just don't understand why they wouldn't take any precautions. Like, they assume they would never get caught, which makes me think maybe this is a regular thing in the league. This is happening all the time, so they were comfortable doing it in this simple manner. One of the text messages included in the document said, "Get a big bet on Milwaukee tonight before the information is out."
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Now, this is the most incriminating text message I could even imagine for this situation. He is basically saying to place bets on the outcome of this game using information that isn't disclosed yet. So he's confirming, one, that he wants people to bet on this game to get, to earn financially from it. And he also knows that the information isn't public yet. So it basically establishes complete guilt. I don't know if this text message actually exists, but assuming it does, this would be incredibly useful evidence in court. Now, this whole situation is a nightmare scenario for the NBA, since they have to keep these close ties with the gambling organizations. When you have 82 games in a year for each team, a total of 1,230 games, you need something to encourage people to watch these games, especially in these scenarios where you have two small market teams playing each other on a Wednesday or something. Your ratings are going to be very low unless there's this gambling incentive, since people who are addicted to gambling will bet on any game. Any opportunity they have to gamble, they'll take it. So it's benefiting the league greatly and boosting their ratings.
I got $10 on Sunny and 79. Dog, got it!
There's also the major concern that if all these bets and these schemes are happening throughout the league, it will compromise the integrity of the game. If people are changing the outcome of the game and how they play depending on the bets that their friends or family placed, that's a massive problem and would completely destroy the league. All of these defendants have been charged with wire fraud and money laundering. Both charges have maximum sentences of 20 years in prison. So a total of 40 years for each defendant is the time they're facing. And it's insane to think how something that we heard as a rumor, players potentially gambling on themselves, has blown up to this massive federal investigation where people are facing serious amounts of time. So in conclusion, if the allegations made in this indictment are true, the lesson here is very clear. If you're making tens of millions of dollars a year, maybe don't risk it all to take part in some simple, stupid gambling scheme with your friends. But that's all I have, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.